Listeria.
What about swarming?
Proteus.
Does all Proteus swarm?
No.
And then the C. tetany too, swarm.
Colostrum, tetani.
There are two different types of Proteus. Remember, there's the normal and the swarmers. The swarmers branch out. But yes, one of the Clostridiums will swarm as well. When you say swarming, you think Proteus. Darting motility.
A rapid.
Vibrio? Can't be.
It's a distinct type of.
Darting is it'll sit still and then like jump forward. Camping. Vibrio is also has darting motility, but they changed the term for that. They call it shooting star.
Oh,
Because it'll dart forward, but when it darts forward, it goes a long ways.
okay.
But it still darts. So they call Vibrio shooting star motility. But it's still darting. Stately.
Slow and steady.
Slow, steady.
Cluster.
Clostridium. What's the difference between gliding and stately?
Gliding's faster.
Gliding's slower. Think Regal, the queen.
Oh, I
Walking,
thought
wanting
stately
everyone
was
to
like
look
the
at her.
queen.
Stately
Doing
slow.
the wave.
So very slow.
So
So what is
glide.
the gliding motility? What organism?
Mycoplasma.
Mycoplasma.
Good.
So the queen is not stately.
Corkscrew.
It's spirochetes.
Spirochetes. Describe it.
Like it
Twist
sounds.
it, just like the shape of the spirochetes. They twist through the water. What is Brownian motion?
Erratic random movement.
Quit using Google.
I'm not.
Because like
She has it written
I wrote
down.
it down. It's my paper.
hit by stuff.
She took a
Yeah.
picture of it. We
This
don't have it.
is bacteria. It's moving, but it's moving due to the bombardment of the molecules of the liquid or the flowing of the liquid in the wet prep or things like
Bombardment.
that. It's not true motility. So you'll look in there and you'll see all this stuff wiggling, moving around, but it's not like a conscious, directed motility. It's random
I got
movement.
it right here
And
too.
it's strictly the bombardment of molecules.
So describing darting and gliding. Darting is not to be confused with shooting star.
Shooting star is a form of darting. It is
Oh.
still darting motility. Campy tends to jump forward. In Vibrio, we like to be still and shoot halfway across the slide. And then
Jumping-
stop and then shoot.
For
So it's
darting-
still darting, but it's like a big darting.
So for darting proper, it's just shooting forward.
Yeah. It'll like pause and then jump forward and then pause and then jump forward. Most of the time, when you think darting motility, you think Campylobacter. Although Vibrio does it as well. Yeah.
So gliding is slower than stately.
Yes.
I thought
It's-
stately was
and you
like the
almost, you
queen.
can't even hardly see the movement. It just very slowly just creeps across the field.
And gliding is the queen.
Gliding is the queen. She's real slow with the glamour model wave. Wanting
Okay,
everyone to see
I
it.
thought that was stately
I
too.
thought that was stately. The queen.
Stately's a little faster. They're both really, really close. Am I gonna ask you to tell me the difference between stately and gliding? Nope.
Okay, okay.
What I may ask you is these right here.
Okay.
And that's why I wanted to make sure that y'all had these answers right here. Because those are the answers you need as far as the examples for that. And again, there are multiple examples for each one of them, but there are some organisms that are just notorious that just go with that motion. Like the swarming and Proteus. There are other organisms that swarm, but Proteus is our textbook picture perfect answer for that. This test is 50 questions, 98 points. Let's go gonna be the usual random mix of stuff. Y'all did not get your own special PowerPoint this year. I made this and I made last year.
Damn school up there.
What?
It's a damn school up there.
I know.
Special.
All these weird medias we talked about.
Yellow.
Corday Ginkgo.
You got that on there. Can you see that? You can't
It
see it.
is blood and potato. It's a potato-based auger. You need to know that.
Doesn't.
It also has antibiotics in it to knock off some normal flora. This auger is specially designed for Bordetella. Primarily Bordetella pertussis, which is what disease?
Whooping cough.
Whooping cough, but also parapertussis. This is the Bordetella media. These weird medias you're gonna need to know, and I think it's on your little study guide I made. What are they made of? What are they for? This one is potato-based. TCBS, thiol sulfate citrate bile salt sucrose auger. You don't need to remember that, remember TCBS. But that does tell you what's in it. This is for Vibrio cholera. Vibrio cholera will ferment sucrose and will turn this yellow. That is what it'll look like, and that is actually a culture of cholera. God, I hope they autoclaved that when they were done with it. Probably threw it in the water supply. Judging by the taste of the water around here, it's in Hot Springs water supply. I hate y'all's water.
What do you mean?
BBE, we talked about this one today. Bacteroides bile esculent. We mentioned that the Bacteroides fragilis will turn this that burnt chocolate brown color. We'll turn it almost black. This is what it looks like. You can see the natural color of that is a light creamy yellow. That Bacteroides starts discoloring everything. Turns the media brown black.
It's going what?
CIN. It's Peptone. It has a beef extract. I don't know if they're talking about there like a beef broth or what. It also has yeast extracts in it. It is Yersinia selective. We'll also grow Aromonas, but that one is primarily, that is designed for Yersinia. Trying to pick up Yersinia, that is the ideal auger to provide the nutrients for Yersinia. That is a heck of a bull. I would not cross that fence.
No.
That's asking for a stone. But Peptone, beef extract, yeast extract, that's what's in it. Along with those 3 antibiotics that it earned its name from. Campylate, or Campylobacter. It's a base of Brucella auger, has sheep blood and 5 different antibiotics in it. If you're looking for Campylobacter, we're looking for diarrhea, lots of normal flora. 5 different antibiotics trying to knock that normal flora down so that you can detect the Campylobacter. Don't forget the environment for this. Campy has to be microaerophilic, capnophilic, and 42 degrees. It's really going to struggle growing in a regular incubator at 37, if it grows at all. Labs that try to culture Campylobacter, and they are becoming more rare, they have a 42-degree incubator. It's so hard to grow, most places have given up, and they're doing this through molecular antigen detection. Oxidase fermentation test. Y'all should remember this test. Remember you have an open tube and another one is sealed with mineral oil? Well, the one sealed with oil is an anaerobic environment. You're blocking it from the air. This is also used for anaerobic testing. Can it oxidize or ferment or whatever under an anaerobic environment? KBLB. KBLB is kanamycin, vancomycin, late blood auger. Late, think of it like chocolate. The red cells have been lysed. but they have not been cooked. It's frozen to pop the cells. That's why it's red instead of brown. That's what turns the chocolate brown, is because they cook it to pop the red cells. This, they freeze it instead, so it retains that nice, pretty red color. Primarily used for Bacteroides, which is vancomycin resistant. This plate has vancomycin in it. Very few organisms are going to be able to live on this plate because vancomycin is such a potent antibiotic. Bacteroides, being resistant to that, doesn't bother it at all. It loves this plate.
Don't do that.
So for this plate, really, if you see any growth on this plate, it's going to be significant. Because whatever it is, it's resistant to vancomycin.
And that's the big one.
That is our big gun.
That gentamicin.
So that is something that's used for Bacteroides. It's naturally vancomycin resistant. Tinsdale auger is selective for Corynebacter. Diphtheria, which is one of the big ones we're looking for, produces that brown halo around it. So they set up stuff on this plate and all they're looking for is the brown. They don't care about anything else if they're looking for diphtheria. They're looking for those brown halos. Can you figure out where I got most of these pictures? www.microbiologyinpictures.com. This is that egg yolk auger we just talked about. The dexlethacinase has a zone of opacity for Clostridium perfringens. If it utilizes lipase, it has an iridescent sheen. Fusobacterium will do that one. If it completely clears the media, then it's protease. We don't care so much about that one, because we don't care much about Clostridium sordelii. But we do care about those first two, because perfringens and fusobacterium could be highly significant.
So, which is which, just so I can see it again, I know you said it earlier.
Lethacinase,
Okay.
lipase. See how shiny and metallic that looks around it?
Yeah.
And this is actually inside the auger. This is on top of the auger.
Okay.
And what's in that? It tells you in the name. It's based out of egg yolks. What's made out of. Haemophilus, the X and B factor requirements. How do they differentiate a Haemophilus that only requires B factor? It will have para in the name. Para influenza only requires B factor. What plates have the factor? What's a plate that has only X factor?
XOD, no?
Blood. X factor is found on the exterior of red blood cells. B factor is found on the interior of red blood cells. So chocolate has X and B. If Haemophilus would grow on that lake blood auger, which it will not, that would have X and B factor. Because they froze those cells to lyse them, so it's still lyse cells.
Okay, hold on. One more time, para is only what now?
If the species if it's Haemophilus para something,
Mhm.
it only requires B factor
Okay, and B is found,
inside the red blood
Inside.
cells. So if you have a Haemophilus that requires X and B factor, it cannot grow on blood auger because it only contains X factor. But there's a special circumstance where it might.
What?
If there's something on that plate that's beta hemolytic, like Staph aureus or group A strep, those are lysing those red cells in the auger. Now this Haemophilus can huddle up around that satellite, around the beta hemolytic colonies. Because that Staph aureus or whatever is lysing those cells for it to give it that B factor that it couldn't otherwise get. Diseases. This is a biggie. This is a biggie on every test. You have to be able to match diseases to the causative organism. What causes chancroid? What calls that one? That's that big, STD that's awful.
Syphilis.
We haven't talked about syphilis yet.
Whoops.
What much?
Gonorrhea.
Haemophilus ducreyi, remember?
Oh,
What's the one we talked about today that causes acne?
it,
Propionibacter acnes.
that one.
Or Cutibacter, if you prefer that name. I'll accept that.
How do you spell that?
CUTI bacter. It's supposed to be pronounced Cutibacter, but I like that. I like Cutibacter. What about pink eye?
That's gonna be conjunctivitis, right?
Well, that's another name for pink eye, but yeah, what's our organism that causes that?
Something for poop.
Aren't there several? But I know it's
There are
specific to
several,
this.
but the biggie, remember, this was discovered in, workers in Egypt. Haemophilus aegyptus. What about, Pontiac fever?
Was discovered in a car. Oh,
I was gonna say, that's what happens when you go and buy a
This
truck.
is the milder form of Legionella. Remember that? You had the big bad one, and then you had Pontiac fever. Be able to match your diseases.
Don't worry, I will be able to.
What's the causative agent of anthrax? Come on now.
Anthracis?
Anthracis. Bacillus anthracis. Match organisms to diseases. We talked about this one today. What causes tetanus?
Clostridium tetani?
Yes. All right, there is going to be, as far as Gram-Stain reactions in spore form, there's going to be a section on the test where it's going to list a bunch of organisms. You're going to have two lines to mark whether it's gram-positive or gram-negative. There's going to be another line to mark, is it a spore former or a non-spore former?
For these specific diseases and?
Nope.
For
in
all
general.
of them.
Oh my God.
Like what we talked about today, the Clostridium, if it's a Clostridium species, they're all spore formers. Pretty much your Bacillus are spore formers.
Record yourself.
Bacillus are aerobic gram-positive rods that are spore formers. Appearance. If I tell you something is long, thin, filamentous, and branching, better start thinking nocardia or actinomyces. If I tell you something has tumbling motility, you better start thinking listeria. If I say it's a little bitty small gram-negative rod that's curved, you need to be thinking Haemophilus. Do y'all remember the one that was gram-negative and had seagull wing-shaped rods? Campylobacter. They will be seagull wing-shaped. Almost like they're trying to be a spider. They're wavy looking. Test to distinguish. We mentioned that Vibrio and Aeromonas are very difficult to tell apart in some ways.
Except for
What's one way you can tell Vibrio apart from all of these?
gram.
It'll grow in that sodium chloride broth. It loves salt. Put in that 6.5% sodium chloride, Vibrio loves it. Most of this other stuff won't grow in it. And you said something important, seafood. If you think ocean, if you think seafood, if you think some sort of ocean injury or a fisherman, start thinking Vibrio. That's where it's associated most commonly. Some fisherman got a hook in his finger. Some idiot threw a glass bottle on the beach and somebody stepped on it. What are the types of anthrax?
Cutaneous,
Cutaneous,
Injectable.
injectable, rare one, the new one. Thanks to really psycho over there.
respiratory,
Respiratory or inhalation.
Yeah.
Breathe it in.
and,
Ingestion. Like eating.
Gastrointestinal, eating it, breathing it, injecting it, all multiple types of anthrax.
Cool.
And a great band. causes antibiotic-induced diarrhea?
Are you killing normal flora or you got trash?
What
C. diff.
organism? C. diff. Clostridium difficile. It has a very distinctive aroma.
Smelly smell. Smelly
You work in the
smell. It
hospital
smells
now,
smelly.
learn the smell of C. diff. What is the cause of gangrene?
What does it say on top?
This is the band Voracious Gangrene from France. Which one? It is Clostridium.
It has gangrenous or something like that in its name. It's Clostridium. No, no.
It's a M. No.
Primarily Clostridium perfringens.
Oh.
Causes gas gangrene.
I don't know. I'll get there.
See the big gas bubbles on this x-ray?
Ooh.
Huge pockets of gas that it's built up on this.
That looks horrible. Is that
If
a
you
knee?
stab him with a needle, it will spew.
Is that a knee?
That is a knee.
Ew.
He probably got
No,
a
is
leg.
that knee? Yes, knee.
He got a leg man.
Yeah, they would have come over in here somewhere and cut that off.
And what? They won't, like.
No,
There you go,
they'll
treatment
just
for
cut it off.
It will also explode out to the surface in huge fluid-filled pustules.
Oh, God.
It's a horrifying disease.
Yes.
Even though you can't see it here because it's not x-rayed, there are huge gas pockets throughout this thigh. He's gonna lose his entire leg at the pelvis probably.
If you don't lose his.
He might. Clostridium perfringens. As far as the bacillus, this is when the anthrax scare first came out. And Anthrax had a concert and they were pushing them to change their name. They came out wearing jumpsuits saying, "We're not changing our name." So Bacillus anthracis, anthrax. Bacillus cereus can cause food poisoning. Bacillus subtilis is almost always garbage. You see it a lot when soil, dirt, stuff like that is disturbed. There's a lot of dust in the air. Even if we opened a plate in here, we could probably grow it. Subtilis is just airborne and it's just trash. They're out there with the bulldozers and stuff pushing around, stirring up dirt, dust. I'm sure they're stirring up Bacillus subtilis. It's just garbage. Always, most important, read your book. Study your PowerPoints, but you have to read over that book. You've already known me at least once, if not more than once, to steal questions out of the book. Would benefit you greatly if you will have read it. As far as the test, starting with multiple choice, down at the bottom there's a matching from organism to disease. Couple of fill in the blanks on page 2, which are easy. If you cannot tell me the organism associated with antibiotic-associated diarrhea, you deserve to miss that one. I noticed I mentioned being able to distinguish one organism from another, and I already mentioned how to distinguish Vibrio from Aeromonas. Put it in 6.5% sodium chloride broth. Vibrio loves it. What about if you needed to tell Vibrio from an enteric? Remember your characteristics of enterics?
Oxidase?
Oxidase. Enterics are primarily oxidase negative. Vibrio is not. It's oxidase positive. As far as distinctive characteristic, what organism forms Chinese characters on gram stain?
Oh, that's one of the first ones we went over.
Yeah,
Rhinobacterium. What two organisms did we talk about that are thin and branching? Nocardia,
Hormones?
Actinomyces. H. pylori. What's it cause?
Stomach cancer.
Well,
Before that.
yes, but stomach ulcers.
Stomach ulcers. What's one of the ways we test for it, that it's very strong and very fast positive?
What?
Yeah,
Is it-
what's in
oh,
that card?
Oh, it's
Sulfur?
that one test that
No.
turns from yellow to the hot pink.
Urea test.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Very rapidly urea positive.
because you guys had one
Very
day.
strong. Incubation requirements for Campylobacter, could be a problem. Know what those specialty jellos, what organism they're supposed to be for. What organism produces a double zone of hemolysis?
This one we just went over
We did that today.
It's a Clostridium. Which one?
Oh, the one with the big.
The fringens.
Oh,
The
'cause-
fringens, you're thinking gas gangrene, double zone of hemolysis.
makes a fringe.
There's a true false section. One of them's the ELEC test, and as far as it's a true false concerning what the test is designed for, or as far as what organism the test is for. Here's a matching section of the specialty jello as far as organism or contents. Like, what is Bordeaux Gango? What's it made out of?
Potato.
Potatoes.
It's got blood and antibiotics in it.
What are characteristics of anaerobes? The biggie, the one I don't like.
They don't like air.
They stink.
Oh.
That's the biggie.
They don't require ozone.
Yeah,
They don't like it.
I don't like it.
they don't like air. What are you talking about?
Most of them will produce sulfur granules. If it's an infection anywhere close to a mucosal surface, that's an indication. And then the bottom section here is a list of organisms. Tell me if they're gram-positive or negative. And they're all stuff that we covered pretty much in depth. There's one weird one. And I'll go ahead and tell it to you. Villanella. Because we didn't cover that one at all. Veillonella. You'll tell me if it's gram-positive or negative. There's one giveaway. The rest of them, we covered.
Is it gram negative?
That's right. The very last question is a case study. If you know those distinctive characteristics we talked about as far as motility or gram stain shapes or anything like that, dead giveaway.
There's just one.
That's the only one that has a picture. There's a couple of other case studies, and if you cover what we covered today, you'll answer those easy. That's the only one that you need to be able to identify from a picture, and it's very distinctive. Because I would hope if I show you a gram-negative rod shaped like that, you would know what it was. That's it, 50 questions, 98 points. This test is easier than the last one.